It's been a very busy and controversial offseason for the Calgary Flames. Jess Belmosto of Locked On Flames joins us to talk about that and the Flames' prospects for the season ahead next on the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. And you can also now hear us on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On NHL. It is great to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Flames, Jess Belmosto. And Jess, it's been a little too long since we've had you back here on the show. A lot of people not happy with the Flames this offseason. Is it as bad as some of the critics are saying, or is this just sort of a phase?
I want to say this is like the initial growing pains of this competitive retool Craig Conroy has going on. Elias Lindholm hasn't made his decision on if he's looking to sign an extension or, willing to be moved this season. And Noah Hanifin, who has made it clear that he wants to be traded and go back to the U.S., is still on the roster. So I don't know. I fully expected at least Hanifin to be on the move before the draft or during the draft, but Tyler Toffoli was the only one that went before the draft. So
what are the rumors now, if any, that you're hearing as far as potential destinations, potential, compensation?
There's nothing, honestly. And it's been so hard. I think that a lot of people are just either keeping tight-lipped or just pulling things out of left field that are not going to happen. As much as Elias Lindholm has helped this team, he is not a 1C on a truly competitive team. And, if teams are looking for a second line center, then they should be interested in him. And he brings a lot to the team. Production was down last year, but it was for everyone. And he does have a great two-way game. So I would be interested in trading for him.
And what do you think he might get? What do you think the Flames could get back in exchange for him?
I am so bad at trade packages because I either severely overvalue or undervalue a player. But just because of the way the salary cap is right now, I would say that the Flames would have to take a player back and probably a draft pick. Maybe a second rounder, just because, maybe a first rounder if they're feeling generous. But I think it does truly depend on who this trade partner is. Is he going to go back to Carolina? They might be willing to kind of sweeten the deal a little bit. Or is it going to be a team like Boston that really needs a second line center and depth down the middle, and they can trade Jake DeBrusk or Matt Grzelcyk and just kind of bring something to the Flames lineup and not just the hope of being a good team.
So as of right now, what do you see the outlook being for this team? I mean, give me some reasons for hope. Let's start with that.
Dustin Wolf. I think really, I hate putting so much pressure on young prospects, especially ones that haven't made that official leap to the NHL. But Dustin Wolf truly does seem like he is the future of the Calgary Flames goaltending. And he's going to be learning from Jacob Markstrom, who, I think is a great mentor and someone who is so competitive and holds himself to a high standard that you would want to kind of see, what does he do differently at this level that maybe I'm not implementing in my outside of the rink routine. I think that, he's done everything he's need to do in the AHL, back-to-back goaltender of the year award, things like that. And Matthew Coronado should be making the roster too. I haven't seen if he's going back to Harvard, but it kind of just sounds like he's just going to join either the Wranglers or the Flames. And then, of course, Jacob Pelletier. He is truly someone that the Flames just needed to inject into their lineup full speed last year. He's fast. He can score. He can set up plays. They didn't have a true finisher last year, and they needed him. But because of poor performance, not my words, he was benched and he was scratched. And there was no reason for it other than he was a young player, because the older guys on the fourth line were making the same mistakes.
And was that a pattern within the Flames organization that because I know covering the Islanders, they tended to give young players almost no margin for error, and veterans got a lot of margin for error. Is that similar as to what was happening in Calgary?
Absolutely. I went to a game out in LA. They lost 8-2, and Pelletier had a turnover. And they're already down 5-2 in like the second period. And he was benched for the rest of the game. And I was just like, why wouldn't you want him out there to get some reps in? Sure, you're losing, but just put him out on the ice. He's going faster and can do more than, a weighted down fourth line. So
what do you think the plan is as far, are we looking at, you talked about a retool versus a rebuild. Are we looking at a 2 to 3 year plan, a 1 to 2 year plan, or is this going to be a long-term kind of a situation?
So we've talked about this on Locked On Flames, my co-hosts Nick and I, and it kind of feels like it's going to have to be a 2 to 3 year plan just because of the pending UFAs next season and then Jacob Markstrom's contract ending in 3 years, and just truly giving Ryan Huska and Craig Conroy time to kind of settle in and get a feel for things and see where the team is at. I feel like it should just be a full-blown rebuild, but you're never going to sell that to a general manager and an owner, more so the ownership than anything. And it's just the soggy middle. There's no winning, but there's plenty of losing.
Do you think the fan base would be on board with a full rebuild?
The smart ones would be. I think that, the Flames have never done a true rebuild. It's just kind of been moving pieces here and there were talks of doing a full-blown rebuild and blowing things up back in 2020 when I started covering the team, and none of those key pieces are there anymore. So you have to really look at things from this new perspective, and I think that Craig Conroy is a smart man and will make good decisions, but again, he's just dipping his toes in the water. It's been 3 months, but we got to get this ball rolling because guys are going to start coming back to Calgary before we know it.
Yeah, it's season is closer than we think, and that's a good thing, I think. But,
I agree.
Jess, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yes, so you can find Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well, and over on Twitter at LO_FlamesPod. And then of course you can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto, and I'm always up for a good conversation, debate, whatever, anything.
I love it. All right, Jess, thank you so much for joining us today.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting on Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on betting on everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think will hit the first home run. And no matter what Major League Baseball team you root for, you'll find great odds, props, and all kinds of other interesting bets on FanDuel. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.